Thank you, Presiding Officer. Figures published this week have revealed the extent of the homelessness crisis in Scotland. On this SNP Government's watch, 40,685 homelessness applications were recorded last year. That is the highest in a decade. And as of March 31st this year, there were almost 32,000 live homelessness applications. Every number is a human being in need of desperate help and support, but this SNP government is failing them. In the face of this homelessness crisis, this Parliament shamed the government into declaring a housing emergency earlier this year. But despite that, the Housing Minister, Paul McLennan, insists this government has a good track record on tackling homelessness, a decade high. So can I ask the First Minister, is there a housing emergency or not?
First Minister.
President Officer, yes, there is a housing emergency. The Government recognises that, and the Government is taking action to remedy the housing emergency. There is a range of action that is being undertaken to ensure that we improve the position on the availability of accommodation through tackling the issue of voids. There is further work being undertaken to strengthen investment in the delivery, the construction of new homes and the refurbishment of existing homes to be available for rent. And there are steps being taken in the planning system to ensure that we can take the steps to tackle the housing emergency. So the Government is absolutely focused on building on its strong record of house construction to tackle the challenges that we face.
Anas Sarwar.
I welcome that the First Minister recognises a housing emergency, but the broader answer demonstrates a government with its head in the sand and oblivious to the struggles of thousands of Scots facing homelessness as we speak. Let's look at the facts. Under this SNP government, we have the lowest levels of home building by housing associations since Thatcher. Overall house building is down by 17%, and the affordable home building target is in tatters. And we now shamefully have record levels of children in temporary accommodation without a home to call their own. That is over 10,000 children left homeless on this government's watch. And the number of young people living in B&Bs has soared in just the last 3 years by over 900%. So, First Minister, with record levels of homelessness and you now agreeing with the declared housing emergency, will you change course or will you back your out-of-touch Housing Minister?
First Minister, I would be grateful, Mr Sarwar, if you could speak through the Chair. First Minister.
Mr Sarwar challenges me on the Government's record, and he has talked about facts. So allow me to share some facts with Parliament. Between 2007 and 2024, this Government was responsible for the construction of an average of 7,750 affordable homes each year. And during that period, we endured the financial crash and 14 years of austerity under the last Conservative Government. And of course, we have the prolonging of austerity under the new Labour Government. Now, between 1999 and 2007, when Mr Sarwar's party were in charge of the Scottish Government and Jackie Baillie was for a short period a minister in that government, the Labour Government, when money was so flush that they left money in the Treasury kitty unspent, there was an average of 5,448 affordable homes. Now, just so that everybody hears that clearly, at a time of plenty, when the money couldn't literally be spent in time, an average of 5,448 homes were delivered each year by the Labour Party. Under this Government, it's 7,750 homes, so we're getting on with the job.
Anas Sarwar.
Presiding Officer, the First Minister wants to talk about at a time when I was 16 years old, not a time when 10,000 children are homeless in Scotland right now under this government's watch. And it's the devastating consequence of what he himself admitted was a government too focused on what they can't do than what they can do. Scots left to pay the price for an SNP government that's lost its way, is incompetent in government and is bad with people's money. Housing in Scotland is completely the responsibility of this SNP government. But after 17 years, when will they take responsibility rather than always looking for someone else to blame? for the Housing Minister to claim they have a proven track record on tackling homelessness when it is at record levels is not just inept, it's shameful. So Paul McLennan simply cannot continue. So will the First Minister recognise that he has a choice: put up with more failure or get to grips with the housing emergency, sack this Housing Minister and change direction?
First Minister.
I would just point out to Parliament that, as usual, Anas Sarwar, when he's faced with facts that rebut his argument, always plays the man and not the issue. It's what Anas Sarwar always does. So let me just come back to the facts. Under this government, and I'm not evading our responsibility, under this government we have built, on average, 7,750 affordable homes each year, compared to when Mr Sarwar's party were in charge, when the money was so abundant they couldn't actually spend it. They only managed to build 5,448 houses. Now,
let's hear one another.
That says to me that this government is getting on with the job. Now, Mr Sarwar said to me that this area of policy is all under the responsibility of the Scottish Government, and to an extent that is true. Housing policy is our responsibility, but there is a budgetary question here. And let me just point out to Mr Sarwar that our capital budget, which is what builds affordable homes, is facing a cut of near 9% under the current spending plans of the last Conservative Government and the incoming Labour Government that they're going to carry on with. Our financial transactions budget has been cut by a whopping 62%. Now,
First Minister.
I have raised with the Chancellor of the Exchequer and with the Deputy Prime Minister the absolute total stupidity and folly of presiding over a 62% cut in the financial transactions budget. So if Mr Sarwar would like to help Scotland in any way, shape or form, why doesn't he persuade the UK Labour Government to desert the Tory agenda and to start investing in our country?
Thank you. Question.